Hi everyone, Precious here. So a few months ago, I think late last year, I attended a tech conference where I met someone and we got talking, and he said that one of the biggest challenges as a business for them has been how to use LLMs to solve their problems. They really don't know how to use LLMs to solve their problems. And we went on talking, and he said that the as a logistics company, and I was starting out and trying to build, trying to scale, they get a lot of challenges with managing support. And for them, the biggest challenge is the fact that people don't want to read the documents. So at the point where they are making decision on, trying to get enough information before they make the shipment, and when the shipment has happened, they are paranoid or they are just very inquisitive. So they call a lot of times, and most of this information is in their documentation already. So it feels like they are not reading, and what they did was to use LLMs to build something, and customers can ask questions from there, but it didn't really scale. They spend a lot of money, thousands of dollars on API credits for you integrating with OpenAI, it didn't really scale because at some point, it started hallucinating and all. Now, they started exploring Kappa.ai too, and Kappa.ai was, it seemed like Kappa.ai was the tool they needed to solve this problem. But when we looked at Kappa, so during this conversation, I went to Kappa.ai and we were looking at it. And at the time when we looked at it, it had 1,500. Today, it doesn't have that pricing again because, I understand they are being used by big boys now. OpenAI uses them, so it makes sense to remove the pricing and bill based on your customer base and how much you've raised. So it was $1,500 then, and I don't think as a business they were making up to $5,000 monthly recurring revenue. So it didn't make sense to pay $1,500 per month to Kappa.ai. Now, the thing is that what they needed as a business was not LLMs calling their documents or any of these things. They needed to build a proper RAG pipeline, a RAG platform for their documents and their internal processes, right? And they also tried exploring Mendable and a handful of platforms that he mentioned, but I'm just going to talk about these two because of time. And you see, this one gives you 500 message credits per month, and it tells towards enterprise. So for somebody who has built, in my personal time, I have spent in the past few years in my personal time, even before AI became really like this whole AI bubble started, I had built like RAG pipelines in the past. I really understood what was happening, but I was really curious because I didn't really understand why it had to be this expensive, right? Like I can understand $20 for a handful of credit. I can understand $50. I can understand $200, but I don't understand thousands of dollars for $1,500 for an integration, regardless of what your customer base was. So if you had 300 customers, if you had 200, it was still the same price. So late last year, I took up the challenge, right, and I started working on this in my free time, mostly on weekends, because of work. And the challenge was to see how best to optimize and build something really performant, and still provide the same value, right? So it was more like I want to know why this is expensive, right? So I built out Cevvo. The past few weeks, I've spent the weekends of the past few weeks just cleaning it out and making sure that it works and it doesn't. The search is accurate, and so I'm going to show you how it works, and I'm going to go on and talk about a few things. So I'm going to sign up. I'm going to sign up with Precious. Then I'm going to use Libra Coda plus 91, or let's do 999 at gmail.com. right? I've used a handful of this email, so I'm not sure which one is going to work. I hope one works. So I'm going to create my account. So when I create my account, I have my dashboard, my conversations, my sources, my coverage gaps, and I'm going to show you what all of these things do, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and first things to do, and the first thing to do when you onboard on it is to add your source. And the source is going to be, I'm just going to crawl Cevvo's documentation website, cevvo.ai/docs. So I'm going to save and crawl. So it's going to start crawling. It's going to start ingesting the data. Now you can you can actually add file upload or GitHub. There are tons of integrations that are going to come in eventually. But you can add, most of these ones are the basic ones, right? So it's crawling. Oh, it's done now. Indexing completed, 12 documents indexed, and you're going to see the documents indexed. So the next thing is going to be integrations, right? You can integrate with chat widgets, Slack, Discord, and what chat widget is the one currently available. So I'm going to go ahead and see how the integration works. So there are two ways to integrate. Either you integrate the modes, you either integrate as chat or modal. Modal is going to appear like this, and chat is going to show up like this. So let's see what the integration looks like. You just have to copy this and paste in your website or your code base, right? It's not very difficult. So I have a website I already worked on. So I'm just going to go ahead and host it. So this is just a single file. And I'm just going to use Cloudflare to just host it so that we get a URL, and you can see it before and after I've added the widgets. So I'm going to create an application, upload a static file, select the file, and this is the file, and I'm going to deploy it. When I deploy it, should be available on this link here. It's just going to take 2 or 3 seconds for me 5 seconds tops for it to get deployed. And now it's deployed, and I have a URL for it. So when I go to this URL, I'm going to open it. This is what it shows me, right? It's just a simple website I vibe coded. Now I'm going to go back, and the plan for me is to integrate a widget here that has all my internal documentations, the websites I have crawled, so that customers can come in here and ask questions and get answers that are contextual. They are not just answers that are being spit out by the LLMs. Now, remember we added a source here, and the source we added was Cevvo Docs. So Cevvo Docs contains the knowledge base of how the application works. It contains how it works, FAQ, talks about API keys and authentication and every other thing there, right? So I would assume that whatever I ask this widget, right, after it's been integrated into this website, it should be able to answer me, give me a response. So it says to integrate, I'm integrating the chat widget. I just need to copy this and place it where it should be, right? So there's one step before that, so I'm just going to show you. So this is it. So it means that this integration should work when I re-upload the website. You get so the website is not it's not integrated because I have not re-uploaded it. Then one last thing is that I'm going to copy this URL because I'm going to use it somewhere. Now it says I need to add the domain, right? This domain, I need to add it because this is how it makes sure that nobody can use your key and your project ID to do something, to just put it on their website and do something else with it. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this. So it means that this website can now have the widget integrated into it. I have integrated into it, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a new deployment and upload the website again, and I'm going to deploy. Now after deployment, the expectation is that when I come here and I refresh, is it done deploying? Yeah, it's done 3 seconds ago. When I refresh, I should see the widget here, and I should be able to ask it any question based on the data source I have fed into it. So I'm going to come to this documentation and look at something and say, okay, how do team and permissions work? So I'm going to ask this question and see if it's going. And remember, this is a different website I just deployed now, right? So I'm going to say, how do team and permissions work, right? It's going to go through the information I have fed it, and it's going to give me this data here. And this data is coming directly from the sources, my sources here, right, that I fed into it, this document that I have fed into it. So now back to my conversation with him. So I think that the biggest challenge he had was the fact that he thought that LLMs were a silver bullet to everything, right? And they spent thousands of dollars trying to use AI and the LLM's API to consume, to provide answers to the customers, right? Which it isn't, and I think that's something that people are still figuring out and realizing that LLMs are not the answer to everything. I know you have a million context today. I think some Gemini has a million context, and I think that Anthropic recently released a million context for their models. But I don't still think that it answers all the problems you probably would have when it comes to trying to integrate with with AI. You need to understand the problem and you need to understand how to solve it. Now back to Cevvo. The whole goal behind Cevvo, you can see there's no pricing, even though there's a limit. The limit is for now, as at today, the limit is 500 questions. That is free. You can add 2 sources, which is either your website or your GitHub or your website, and a file. You can upload files. Right? I should increase this. Right? I should increase this to maybe let's say maybe 5 or 10. So the whole goal for me, like I said, is to, and there's no plan upgrade or anything, right? I don't intend. I'm going to also remove this. I don't intend to, for now. I just want to explore and understand and see how to provide affordable, RAG tooling for businesses who need it. So the overall goal is to be able to provide, to give you the ability to do things like, bring in smart answers to your documentation, just like what we've shown here. Your document becomes the source of truth for your customers and all the questions they have. So you can focus on improving your documents, and you also have customer support. You should be able to provide customer support for you using your internal MCPs. Then knowledge base, right? You should be able to provide. You should be able to use your knowledge base it has integration with your knowledge base. I'm not even sure. Yes. So now back to the platform. You can see that from here we can see the questions. We can see that nobody has given us a satisfaction score. You can also see, let me see, I think this is, you can also see sources, right? Like we only have one source here. Conversations that you've had, you can look at the transcript of the conversation and where it retrieved the data from, so that you know what it's doing behind the scene, and you know what when it's not working. So if you're seeing it retrieve documents from BBC or Business Insider, you know that this is wrong. Now you see coverage gaps. We don't have a coverage gap, so I'm going to go ahead and ask it a very abstract question like, how do I cook egusi soup, right? And see how it performs. So it says I don't have enough information in the knowledge base to answer this question. So I think that this should show up as a knowledge gap here, because your customers, of course, you have the ability to ignore it. Your customers are asking you questions that don't exist in your context or the information you've loaded into it, right? So you have, these are your top questions and your source analytics, right? And then you have a playground where you can also test, right? And test and do a lot of things before you release the widget. So integrations, a handful of other integrations are coming eventually. So Yeah, if you think this is something that you would like to use, I will encourage you to, you know, create an account, grab an API key, and just integrate into your website. And see, it can actually crawl your website. So it means that the data is crawling is going to be public. So you don't have to give me your internal documents yet, right? So you can crawl your website and get data that you can put in your website and see how it works for you. So in the coming weeks, I'm going to be rolling out updates, and I will also be increasing the number of questions and the number of sources, right? So this is just the first release, and I'm also trying to make sure that the infrastructure running this is stable enough for a gradual usage increase. So as time goes, I'm going to understand if this is actually something that can be pay as you go billing, and it doesn't have to cost so much for businesses, small and medium scale businesses to use. Thank you, and see you next week.